Yeah,
There you go.
Welcome back, everybody,
My fault.
to The Edge.
I've been gone a week.
He's
Forgot
out
to
of
hit that
practice.
audio button.
And that's cool. It happens, man. Happy Monday, Chris. It feels like a Monday to you,
Thanks,
doesn't
Vic.
it?
Only have 2 more days, and it's the weekend again.
I don't
Hey,
even know
guys.
what day today is.
Welcome to The Edge. To the edge, to the edge, to the edge. For those who listen, know. Go ahead and share the show, 100.7 The Viper. We love it when you do. Thanks again for the comments and getting involved. Happy Hump Day. Today's going to be an outstanding day weather-wise throughout the St. Louis area. Wherever you may be listening, we hope it's great weather-wise as well. Resort weather, Cardinals playing this afternoon. They had lost like 11 of 13 games. Now they've won 2 in a row, so they're only 4 games behind the Cubs and Brewers for first place. That's great news. We have Chris Knight back. I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2. Tabitha Hassell's here. Eric Johnson will be in shortly. Of course, if you want to give us a call, you can do that, 636-695-2915, 636-695-2915, the fastest 2 hours of morning talk radio you'll find anywhere and everywhere. That's why we do it, and we appreciate the show growing so fast over the last year, and it's all because of you. Coming up at 8:20, Jane Duker. You won't want to miss it. Legal representation for St. Louis City Police, St. Louis County Police. She's an attorney, a lobbyist, and the former chief of staff for former Missouri Governor Bob Holden. We're going to talk about some issues going on in the city, in the county with police, what's happening with county council, Sam Page, all kinds of things going on across the area that affect everybody in pretty much every county that you live in. Jane Duker never holds a punch. She's the biggest thorn in the side of Sam Page. And now also frustrated, I guess, when it comes to what's happening with a lot of federal dollars that are being put out and spent all over the place. We'll get into that. We love your comments as well on the Facebook line at 100.7 The Viper. Also, big news yesterday, and we'll get into it more later in the show. But, Chris, how was the trip to Florida?
It was great. It was great. It rained a lot the last 2 days.
What were you seeing in Florida? Any kind of changes with anything? Because, I mean, COVID's gone. We know that. COVID is gone. It is absolutely gone. I mean, can you tell any differences in Florida or what's happening in Florida?
No, because when I was in Florida 2 months ago, it was pretty much the same. I mean, masks, people wear masks, but it's if they want to wear a mask. It's not mandated. Signs on doors say, masks are encouraged, but you don't have to wear a mask if you don't want to.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that COVID is over. We saw what happened with that weeks and weeks and weeks ago when Fauci kind of was outed by Rand Paul. Then when the emails showed, then the CDC changed their guidelines. As we were leaving the show yesterday, former CDC Director Robert Redfield came out now and said there's no doubt the virus came from a lab. So if anybody ever told you, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, oh, it happened at a market in a bat, tell them to get educated or get lost because they're idiots. And it's now all coming out. And there's nothing anybody can say. There's no arguments. You even have ultra-liberal people like Jon Stewart coming out and saying it was in a lab.
Well, the CDC director has stated it. I mean, it's
Robert Redfield. Now, keep in mind, he left in January.
Yes.
And then they got a new CDC director that went the opposite direction of him. I wonder why. Anyway, don't ever let anybody tell you you were advised correctly on this show, and now you're being proven right. COVID is over. The game is over. COVID is a real virus. It is a horrible virus to some people. Most people, I don't even have to give the stats again, but the bottom line is Robert Redfield came out yesterday again, or 2 days, and reiterated the fact, yes, it came from a lab.
And he blames the WHO.
Yeah, and he blames the WHO. And Senator Rand Paul said anybody that was associated with donating money for the gain-of-function research can't be involved in another investigation into the Wuhan lab.
Absolutely.
You think?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think we all agree from that standpoint. So that's a big headline. I don't even know if we need to waste time with it, but just keep in mind, there's a lot of people who like to go on Facebook and they're keyboard warriors and they act like they know a lot and they like to give their opinion. And then there's people at their parties that are starting to happen again. And then there's people at work that like to play like they know things and they've done zero research and they've not looked at both sides and they'll give you their opinion. And you know what? That's fine. If you want to act like you want to take a different approach in life and handle the virus. So, yeah, go ahead. Just don't push your ways on other people. End of story. Done, gone. It started in the lab. It's sad that this happened. Now all we can do is pray to God it doesn't happen again.
It
Well,
will.
a shout out to
It
all
will.
of our Florida listeners. We have
Yes.
quite a few in the
I
Keys,
just saw that.
Naples. Beautiful areas.
I'm coming to see all of you
And
soon.
by the way, we love it when you're and by the way, when you're listening, share the show 100.7 The Viper. This show has gone on for over a year. It continues to grow. We continue to have people wanting to get involved in the show from a financial standpoint. We are grateful. We appreciate it. Chris has put a lot of time into our slick look on Facebook, which I say thank you, Chris, because it looks really nice and slick.
it does. It's
from where we
beautiful.
used to
Thank
look.
you.
And before too long, I'm going to find a Fox 2 Channel 11 sticker to put
Yes.
right behind me. We don't have any in the building. We had some new imaging and some new logos. I walked around the building last week. We don't have any stickers.
You go
That,
searching
no.
through the desks.
now, we have some big things here. It would turn into a Fox 2 Channel
Right.
11 board that I could
Right.
put up behind me, but it's still not the same. So we're going to see where that goes. Very interesting, too. Another headline we'll get into a little bit later before Jane gets in. Vice President Kamala Harris refuses to visit the border. We're on what, day like 90? She refuses to go.
Donald
And
Trump's going.
As he should.
Texas Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott, invited President Trump. President Trump's going to the border. What does it mean? To me, nothing. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. He's going to show up. Okay, great. What can he do?
I think
Well, that's
he
more
can.
than Joe's doing.
It is more. It's
Or
more than.
Kamala.
Well, it's
that's
more,
exactly
you're right.
right.
It's more than they're doing, which is why I said
And
it.
it brings attention to the situation. And Trump does have he still has a lot of support. And they are asking now for private funding to continue building the wall.
That's what we're getting into. Trump just showing up. He can't do anything from a legislative standpoint. He's not the president. He's not a decision maker anymore. But what you just said, Tabitha, is exactly what can do. Money raised.
That's right.
I-
He has
I
a lot of donors.
I believe Abbott, as long as he's going to build a wall.
I believe it as well.
He has said it. Greg Abbott is not a guy that says things.
And most of
and
the
just
wall was
leaves
already
them out
there.
there.
There's only gaps. I mean, they only have to fill in the gaps. Think about that.
He's basically saying, you know what? If you, federal government, are going to continue the disaster, and it's a disaster, there's nobody who can stick up for the current policy of our administration of what's happening at the border. All right? Talk to the people who've been there. This show has talked to it. That's why we can talk so definitively about what we're saying. Hell, we had Colonel Joe Adams, who knows more about the border than anyone, who worked it for 12 years, on the show, who visited recently and talked about what's happening. It's sad. It's sick. It shouldn't be happening to
It's
these
a
people.
sham. Think about
There
this.
needs to be a better situation. And right now, it just frustrates me because I want our president and our vice president to succeed, but it seems like all that they're talking about is COVID and vaccines.
And they've already paid for the
COVID's
wall.
over.
Think about that. The wall's already paid for. The government paid for the wall. It cost them more money to shut down construction than it did to continue building it.
There's just not a lot of attention at the border right now. There's not. Now, granted, the president is very busy right now. The G7 summit's going on. He's got a big meeting with Putin today. But what really happens in those meetings?
I can't wait.
I have no idea. I mean, does anything ever really come out of this? No, it's just like movies. Everything's behind the scenes. We're not
course.
going to know about anything important. We never do. But I do think it was interesting that Putin was doing interviews with American television.
I know. And
television
did you read
reporters
the
and anchors.
Did you read the interviews?
I read one of them.
Did you read about his statements about Ashley Babbitt?
You know what?
did.
I read a report about this yesterday.
I did read that.
Go ahead. The way I was going to go with this is that Putin was talking about how we're blamed by this current administration. We're blamed by current American media for causing all these problems and having cyber attacks. He's like, show us any proof.
That it was another statement he made, yes.
And then he addressed the Ashley Babbitt
Yes.
situation that happened
And it shined an
at the January
entirely
6th insurrection.
an entirely new light on the situation, because you know what? It's something that most Americans don't look at it in this way, as other foreign countries do, is that the people who were there that day on January 6th, they are seen as dissidents. That is exactly how they're viewed. Those people, we know Ashley Babbitt was shot. We don't know the name of the police officer who shot her. We have absolutely zero details. The government will not release those details. And guess what? If that was another country and we had somebody who was out protesting the government and the government shot and killed them, we would be up in arms. Our government would be up in arms. We go after Assad and so many other government leaders for that to happen. And here in this country, the people who were there that day on January 6th, they're calling them dissidents. They're calling them domestic terrorists. They're putting them on the no-fly list. And that is not how a country should handle people who protest the government.
Yeah,
and that is what Putin was calling out.
Yeah, especially when you're not handling from the year of rioting that we saw when you did arrest people.
Absolutely correct.
Hey, if you're going to do it to people January 6th, then do it all the way around. Everybody has to be treated fairly. It's simple, and it's not that difficult. But that's how it goes in life. We got a lot of people joining the line this morning, asking us. We talked a lot about critical race theory yesterday. We can get into that again today. We'll talk about the national situation that's going on with this meeting. We haven't even gotten into the fact of BJC now requiring employees. And we talked about this yesterday, what would happen on the show. If it happened in Houston, it's going to happen at every hospital, demanding employees to get vaccinated or face the possibility of being fired. WashU then came out and said there was talk that they were going to do it. And once BJC does it, then WashU does it, then Mercy does it, and everybody follows in, because if you don't, then it's the cancel culture aspect that goes on you. Is it a good thing? I don't know. We'll wait and see. We don't know. There's still not a lot of research out there. But we are seeing a lot of different effects of people having adverse effects from getting the vaccine, whether any of us have chosen to get it or not. We got to take a break. We're rocking and rolling early. The fastest 2 hours of talk in the morning you'll find anywhere. 100.7 The Viper. Eric Johnson walked in studio. Chris Knight. Tabitha Hassell. I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2. All right, you won't want to miss it. One of our best guests. She is fun. We love her. Jane Duker coming up next. We'll talk St. Louis City, St. Louis County policing. We'll talk what's going on with county council in St. Louis, what's happening with a bunch of money, and the Criminal Justice Center situation that's going on downtown. There are a lot of issues, a lot of things going on. Jane's got an opinion. She's the legal representation for St. Louis City and County Police, a lobbyist as well. If you have any questions you want to know too, go ahead, jump on 100.7 The Viper on 100.7 The Viper on Facebook, and we'll try to get those questions in, and of course share the show. Back right after this.
Show. Back in a moment.
Mom, Ethan's in the tree again.
Ethan, get down.
Can I climb on the swing set instead?
Sounds like it's time to get all your adventure-seeking kids to Holiday World and Splash and Safari. They'll soar on Thunderbird, race against each other on Cheetah Chase, the first launched water coaster, and get the thrills they love on all the wooden roller coasters. Get your family fun off the ground at holidayworld.com.
Free smoking! Free parking! Free sunscreen!
Are you a business owner looking for funding? Greenbox Capital is here to help by providing easy working capital loans in as little as 24 hours. Visit greenboxcapital.com/apply now to fill out a short form and get started today. With funding from $3,000 to $500,000, Greenbox Capital can help. Visit greenboxcapital.com/apply now to receive a special offer of 10% off cost of working capital. Greenboxcapital.com/apply now and get business funding needed without stress from traditional lenders. Greenboxcapital.com/apply now. Fast funding for small businesses.
Compass Health Network is excited to announce the opening of the newest Express Care location on Newtown Boulevard in St. Charles. Compass Health Network accepts private insurance, Medicaid, self-pay, and a sliding fee scale. Compass Health Network cares for the whole person, the whole family, the whole community, with locations in St. Charles, Troy, Wentzville, St. Peters, and the newest Express Care on Newtown Boulevard by 370. For information, call 636-723-8465 or visit compasshealthnetwork.org.
The important thing to look for in a roofing company right now is, are they local? Brian Dawson Roofing has served the area for years, locally owned and operated. Brian Dawson Roofing will take care of all your roofing needs, from shingles to cedar shake, replacement to new construction. Call 465-9465 for a local roofing company that stands behind their work. Call Brian Dawson Roofing today, a local, fully insured roofing company. 465-9465. Online at briandawsonroofing.com.
Start with everyone with a brand new puppy they cannot leave home alone. There he is now, disemboweling a sofa. Now narrow it to the puppy parents who need to get their prescriptions refilled today. For you, there's Walgreens same-day prescription delivery. Medication sent right to your door from the local Walgreens you already know and trust. So you can spend all day at home teaching your new puppy some manners. Elroy, roll over. Or just sit there and tilt your head. Aw. To join, text JOIN-RX to 21525.
Hello, St. Louis and St. Charles County. This is John Londoff Jr. along with my good friend and partner, Jimmy Sappho. Jimmy, folks are wondering how Johnny Londoff Autoplex has become the fastest growing pre-owned dealer in the area so quickly. Are you kidding me?
Sir, for over 80 years, folks have trusted your family to give the best customer service, a great selection, and the lowest prices possible.
And don't forget our free lifetime powertrain warranty on most vehicles on the lot.
Visit us in St. Peters
and at LondoffAuto.com.
Now, back to the Edge Morning Show.
Wayne's CPA went MIA. To keep his books and his sanity, he needs to find a replacement ASAP.
Hey, Johnny, have you ever heard of a fungible good?
Indeed can help him hire the people he needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, back to the Edge Morning Show.
Hey, welcome back to The Edge, everybody, the fastest 2 hours of morning talk radio. Thanks again for all the listeners, and of course on Facebook, 100.7 The Viper. If you have any questions you want us to ask our next guest, feel free to drop them in, and we'll go from there. Eric Johnson, he's here now. Good morning, Eric. We haven't heard you talk much this morning. I guess you're warming the voice up, getting ready to rock and roll, right?
I'm trying to get rid of coffee out of my life.
Okay, there's
and it's
Eric.
like screwing with my head.
All right.
Now,
well,
why
that's
would
cool.
you do such a thing?
You grew a beard overnight, as Tabitha
It's
said.
not a beard.
Congratulations.
It's laziness.
All right. Chris Knight's back from vacation in Florida, where he just bought a baby blue, teal Smurf Lamborghini. Congrats. That'll be back too. You'll see that
Can't
flying
wait for
around.
you guys to see it.
That's going to look really good at the O'Fallon Walmart.
Yeah, that's not going to stand out in St. Charles County. Tabitha Hassell's here, and I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2. Talking with our good friend, Jane Duker. Jane, good morning. Thanks for taking some time. Jane, of course, the legal representation with St. Louis City and County Police. She's a lobbyist, an attorney, a busy mom, and also the former chief of staff for Governor Bob Holdren. Jane, good morning. How are you, girl?
I want to ride in the Lamborghini.
Oh!
Chris?
Me too.
We'll give her a ride.
Yeah. I got an idea.
I don't mind me seeing with the old lady. I'm in.
Hopefully teal is your color, because that's what it is.
Totally.
Okay.
Hey, Jane, Chris.
Where were you? I was in Florida too, by the way, last week.
You know, I just came back last night, and it rained for the past 2 or 3 days, and it's so weird because, you know, like, it takes forever for us to, it seems like it takes a long time here in St. Louis to get flash flood warnings for our roads to become, like, impacted with water, right? Down there?
Not there.
Not there. Not there. It rains 30 minutes, and there's like 4 foot of water on the roads, man.
Yeah, they don't do that well.
Like,
That's true.
wow.
That is very
What part of Florida were you in, Jane?
We were in Inlet Beach,
Oh, yeah.
which is right outside Panama City. It was great. We had rain the last day, you know, but not so. It was great. It was incredible.
That's
Hard to be
nice.
back.
Nice. Yeah. And
Back to reality.
Yeah, and you're back to
Right.
reality. Jane, we were talking about, where do we start with Jane this morning, because there's so much going on. Once again, I've told people before, if you want to keep an update of what's truly going on in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, whether you agree with every one of Jane's thoughts or not, follow her on Twitter at Jane Duker. I'm not kidding you. You're going to find information. Also, Jane, when it comes to starting with a big topic, what do you think is the most important pressing issue right now with St. Louis
Public
City,
safety.
St. Louis County? What is it?
Public safety, without a doubt.
Good answer.
Without a doubt.
Since we
And
last spoke to you, what's going on? What is happening?
Well, I mean, obviously the murder count in the city is gone up, and I'm also trying to get some more statistics on the county. I think a lot of people don't realize that crime in the county is also climbing at an alarming rate, and so we need to really start watching it. We have, you know, there was a 4-hour public safety hearing about closing of the workhouse yesterday, and facts are coming forth that really sort of revealed that the whole slogan thing is not working. And so there's overcrowding now at CJC, which is the downtown jail. People are sleeping on floors and on benches, which I think, were the humane conditions that they initially claimed. And so I think that's becoming a major challenge. Now they've said there's going to be a pod at the workhouse that's going to stay open. So they're closing the workhouse, but not really closing the workhouse. So the Board of Aldermen is grappling with these issues. We have a reimagining, which I'm not sure what that means. We've yet to get specifics on reimagining public safety, I guess wishing the murder away. And so it's frustrating. The social worker program, great idea in theory, but it is starting to become clear that it's taking more police resources than it's actually helping. So when somebody calls and they think it's a mental health issue or some other kind of social work type issue, 2 police officers have to go to the scene to make sure that it's safe. Then the social worker gets to come in, and a social worker, though, has to be accompanied by at least 1 police officer at all times.
Huh.
So it really takes more resources than less. Now, so not to say that that's not a good idea, but what you can't do is take from existing resources. It's just too frustrating.
No, it's
When
not
you're
a good
looking
idea.
At 54 cops on the street at any given time in the city of St. Louis.
I don't think it's a good idea because here's how you handle it. I think St. Louis needs shock and awe. I'm going to say it. I think we need to have so many cops and overwhelm the situation that crime just stops. And then if you need
it worked in whether people agree with it or not, Eric, and sorry to interrupt you, in 93 when we saw rates go up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, more police were added, and the uptick in crime and homicides, it went down. Is that wrong, Jane?
That was during the crack wars. And during the crack wars, there were 35 police officers in each police district in any given shift. Okay, that is at like 4 times what we have now. So there were a lot of officers hired in the mid-'90s with the crack wars. There's a lot of federal money that came in. And what's really ironic about that is all the cops that were hired during that period are now eligible for retirement and are leaving.
Right. You know what?
All those experienced officers are going.
Yeah, just listening to you, it's fine. We can reimagine stuff. Here's the deal. You overwhelm the situation. Number 2, you don't apologize for it. You just say, it is what it is. I'm sorry. Right. This is the most crime-ridden city in the world. And then if you want
to... we're like 4th or 5th in the world.
Yeah.
We're ahead of Tijuana, Mexico.
Yes.
We have 87.6 murders per 100,000 people.
Oh my, that is crazy. Because I used to live in Los Angeles, and we would go, "Hey, you want to go to Tijuana?" And it was a joke because you did not want to get, hijacked or killed or whatever. And then if you want to have a social worker, there's a social worker office at the jail cell downtown. If it gets to that point, you drag their ass down.
Why not provide the services there?
Exactly.
That would be a good idea.
Why would you put
transport them and get them services? No one wants to deny services to people who need it.
Exactly. It's just and the dominoes are going to start to fall because all of us, and I keep talking about this with Vic and Tabitha and Chris on the show. Okay, you don't get your health, you don't get your security in order. When does DeWitt and the Cardinals start to make rumblings like, "Hey, we got to really start to fix this"? When does the Fortune whatever is left
community?
Yeah, the business community. When does the business community unapologetically pick up the roots and move to, I don't know, South Carolina or to Texas or wherever else they can go? There's your second domino that starts to fall, and then the entire city becomes a Blythe mess. Just look at East St. Louis. So I don't understand how we can't go into these press conferences with our mayor and ask her legitimately hard, pertinent questions where she can't get off the hook.
Well, that doesn't happen.
I know.
Let me just assure you that there's nobody there saying, we understand that, you want to look to the root causes of crime. No one disputes that. But you have a short-term problem that people are getting slaughtered in the streets. And what are you going to do to address the short-term problem? And how many people are going to die until you figure out whether these long-term plans regarding education and youth job programs and all these things, which are great, but how many people are going to die, and how long are you going to wait before those programs actually start?
And Jane, that's a great point right now.
Taking foot.
because there's really not answers for that part of it. And I had some time with her, and if you ask that question, it's about a 5-minute answer, and it's like what? And I've only got so much
It's
time
word
to
salad.
work.
I call it word salad, where they there's buzzwords. There's reimagine. There's defund. There's redirect. There's a lot of word salad. I call it nonprofit word salad, and it's very frustrating because all of the investments you're making in job programs and housing and whatnot don't mean a thing if people are getting slaughtered in the streets.
So
all
you
that
have,
investment is wasted.
So you have KMOX, you have the Post-Dispatch, you have some news talk outlets out there, you have the local news who's never going to cover anything they're not going to ever be too confrontational. But when do the journalists start to say, we have no idea what she was talking about? This is the most, I don't care what adjectives you use, St. Louis is a dangerous place to live, and we have gotten no answers from this mayor or our prosecutors or anybody on how to fix it. I mean, when does the media start to say, you make no sense, you need to start answering these questions?
Well, it's really interesting that you say that because I actually attended the 4-hour hearing yesterday, and I thought, frankly, that the Public Safety Committee of the Board of Aldermen did a phenomenal job in questioning Chief Isom and the director of the jail with very hard questions, and especially the Black Caucus. I have to give them credit because they think this is all nonsense because they're like, it's our people who are dying. When you release these people from, the workhouse or the downtown jail, they come to my neighborhood, not yours.
Is that JP Johnson?
Say that again?
Is that JP? Was he there with the Black Caucus yesterday?
I don't know, but
Okay.
I was just talking about the board members.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The actual board
Because
members
JP's
were
been on the
great
show
because-
talking about this before as well.
Yeah, and Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Davis is like, there's nobody in my neighborhood saying defund the police. They want more police. They want fair police. They want good policing, but they want more police. They feel unsafe. Alderwoman Boyd's like, everybody who can get out has gotten out. And this is, the older people, they're terrified. They don't leave their homes. People live like this every day. And then you hear like Alderwoman Ingracia call and say, I am very angry. I had to pull over because I'm shaking because of the thought of people in the workhouse having to cut grass while they're detained there.
That's true for our listeners.
I just lost it. And, personal responsibility. I understand people want to talk about gun control, and I'm always open to that because I'm not a big gun person, and I don't think the Second Amendment, is the most important thing in life. But you also can't ignore the criminal. Okay, it's not just the gun, but it's also the gun criminal.
Or the environment that helps the criminal get along. When you feel like your government isn't going to do anything against you, what are
Absolutely.
You're going to take advantage as much as you can.
Oh, absolutely. And then when your congresswoman, files a bill to decriminalize all drugs, okay? So heroin, fentanyl. You cannot decriminalize these things.
Jane talking about Cory
I understand
Bush.
that you don't want to go after possessors, people who are genuinely addicted. I get that. But you could, as a government, you can never say it's okay to possess or use or have fentanyl, ever.
Right.
That's not even negotiable, in my opinion. And I don't understand this whole idea that there is zero personal responsibility. I think it's true. I think she wants to decriminalize crime.
Well, she does want to
that's what we're
decriminalize
starting to
crime.
feel like.
She's starting out with prostitution. Hey, Jane, I know in between these two facilities, there are 775 inmates. 364 of these are Class A felonies. That includes murder, assault, robbery, domestic assault.
Yes.
You're talking about the Criminal Justice Center.
That is correct.
and-
These
in the
are
workhouse.
people even Kim Gardner doesn't have the conscience to let out.
Exactly. So what is happening? They're just going to release them to the streets? What's going to happen with these people?
Well, that was the thing, is Chief Isom really didn't have a good answer for that. They said, at some point you're going to have overcrowding because Kim Gardner really isn't prosecuting. The courts aren't up to speed yet from COVID. So they keep saying they're going to manage the population, which means really let them out. Well, which ones are you going to let out?
And that's what I want to know. Are they going to let, we're trying to lock away violent offenders. Are we just going to say, okay, the workhouse, these facilities are going to close. We're just going to let everybody back out in the streets and wait for them to commit another crime, which they again won't be prosecuted for, because we know most of these people who are in the workhouse right now for these violent felonies, Class A
It's not their
felonies.
first rodeo.
It's not their first, and there's
That's
no
why
doubt they're going to do it again.
Yes, and that's why they're detained. Because look, let's face it, the prosecuting attorney and a circuit judge has looked at this and said, this guy is a danger, or this gal is a danger to the community. You can't be held pending trial unless there is evidence that this person is a danger to the community. And I get really angry when I hear, and look, let's face it, it's the white progressives, the way lefty progressives, and, like Alderwoman Annie Rice saying these are all nonviolent. No, they're not.
They're not
Quit
nonviolent.
lying to the public and telling people that these are nonviolent. They put the statistics out there. These are not nonviolent people. If they're nonviolent, Kim Gardner has already made the pass that she's not even, going to ask that they be detained.
Wow.
So, that determination failed. And another thing that's really amazing to me is when the feds came in and started prosecuting a lot of gun crimes because our city prosecutor wasn't doing it.
They're locked up there as well.
And the feds would come in, and they did. Well, guess what? Now the city has determined that all federal detainees, these are people who are citizens of the city of St. Louis. They've committed crimes in the city of St. Louis. Now the city has terminated its contract with the federal government and no longer houses federal detainees who've committed crimes in the city of St. Louis. Now, there's a couple problems with that. One, the feds pay really good reimbursement. And in fact, the city made, $7 to $9 million a year in revenue off of just housing federal detainees that committed crimes in the city of St. Louis. They pay much faster. The state doesn't pay for detainees very quickly, and they pay at a very low rate, like below cost. So really, the federal detainees were taking care of the city and the state detainees. They were subsidizing them. So now they've taken these people and they've shipped them off to other states. 160 detainees are now like in Kentucky.
Right. I remember when they bought those beds, and that's what. And I'm assuming you're talking about the multi-agency task force that was put together in St. Louis to fight violent crime and pick up offenders. Well, I know somebody on that task force, and I know they were buying beds, and he told me they do pay a lot of money for these beds, and they prepay them. And, and this is a good revenue for the city to keep these people instead of shipping them off to other states.
Keeping them near their family, keeping them near their lawyers. So now you talk about, this is what sort of the hypocrisy is. If this is really about the detainees, you don't take people who you want to rehabilitate, city of St. Louis citizens, and send them to Kentucky. And you really think that the conditions in Kentucky are better than what they are in St. Louis?
And they can't have visitors. I mean, it's more inhumane for them to ship them to other states.
It is more inhumane, and it's out of sight, out of mind, which means it's a slogan rather than really a policy. And that's what's frustrating to me, is that this is just a slogan, and they just want to be able to say that they closed the workhouse. I mean, and I hate to say it, but there's journalists, or not journalists, there's people in media, Tony Messenger every day, today's a great day to close the workhouse. It's all a false narrative.
So let me ask you this. So there's 3 times now on the Facebook page, your opinion, and we're trying to always figure this out here on the air. Why is this happening? Why do you think that prosecutors don't want to prosecute? Why do you think?
Well, that's a whole nother big issue.
Well, it's an opinion. I get it, but why do
that
you
would
think?
take us an hour, because it's not just St. Louis City; it's also St. Louis County wanting to.
Then what's the coordinated effort in all this? Why would our leadership in Sam Page, in all the
we'll get to Sam Page, but Tashara Jones says it. She says that people in her neighborhood don't want more police.
No, she just said that the Black Caucus downtown said different.
Eric, I know, but I'm telling you what Mayor Jones says. What she said.
Exactly.
Okay, but why?
Because I actually think there's going to be some polling out there, because I think there is a difference, and at least the Black Caucus members I've spoken to have said, look, the African American community wanted a black mayor. That doesn't mean they endorsed her position on defunding the police. It doesn't mean that they endorsed Cori Bush's position on, decriminalizing crime. I think there is a difference, and I think that it's going to become clearer as time goes on that the policies are really frustrating citizens. And I will say, I think that the facts are coming out faster than I thought they would. I really did think she would get a longer honeymoon. I think people are starting to talk about it more so than I thought, and I do think that the policies are revealing themselves to be pretty bad pretty quickly. I mean, that tape of the people stomping on the car,
Yeah.
I think that woke a lot of people up. And I do think there is an issue, too, of being desensitized to crime. When I was young, and I know I'm old, but when I was young, pictures of murder victims were in the newspaper. Literally, they were. And you saw what crime is. Now, we are so into this mode of allegedly protecting people from seeing things that people don't really see how horrible crime is. And, I think people just pretend it's not happening. And, it's sad because I do think that, we're going to break the record for murders again.
Yes.
We haven't even started summer. I mean, and here's the other thing. I think the radical left, and look, I'm a Democrat.
I know.
So,
can I ask you
there's a
that?
radical side of each party that have bent and come together. But
Well,
I think they decided they were, going to go into local governments and start taking them over.
So this
that
is
was
a
the
question
new
for
area
you.
of organizing.
This is such a great question for you. I know you're a liberal and I know you're a Democrat, but is this an opportunity for the liberals, for the blue collar Democrats and Republicans to come together and just kind of start disassociating with the socialist Cory Bushes of the world? Is this the time where we just say, you know what, this is all jacked up. We got to start rethinking politics. Do you feel like you're moving over to the Republican side a little bit? Don't shake your head no at me, Vic.
No, Eric.
Vic, don't shake.
No, this is what it's interesting you say that. There's a reason why we have Joe Biden. Because the moderate wing of the Democratic Party said we will not win if we go AOC, Cory Bush, Bernie Sanders. Okay, so there's a reason why Democrats came together and said we're going to nominate a moderate. So I do think that, and look, the Republicans have the same radical problem on their side. So what we have here is the 60% in the middle. I hope at some point are going to get fed up and say, we have to govern toward the middle.
But who
We
takes
can't
over
just
that
keep swinging
mantle?
back and forth?
Who wins that battle? Who's the 60% get voted in? Is it a St. Louis Republican mayor that comes in?
That'll
and
never happen. That will never happen.
Wow.
Eric, I'm trying to put the guardrails on you, Eric. I've been trying to put the guardrails on you.
I just don't see
the county is sort of turning that way, but I do
Right.
think the moderates, what I love is St. Louis County is that we have two white male Republicans, two black female Democrats that have taken over the county council.
And that's a great
That
transition,
is what I like,
Jane.
is the bipartisan moderates working together. That's a model, is getting, more they don't agree on everything, but they have decided to work together, no matter what, for the common good. And, you almost need to see that happening so that people can believe that it actually can occur.
In
so
St.
you have
Louis
radical
County.
right people in the county working with the liberals saying these four at least are honest people who want to do the right thing.
And we did see it because there was a vote of no confidence taken against, the St. Louis County chief, the county chief, the St. Louis County chief of police as well. And that went down party lines, and it went down, and that's where this Republican duo and this Democratic duo disagreed with each other. But then the next day they were back on the same page, no pun intended, going after Mr. Page, which led us into our final topic with you. We've had you for a long time already today because we could do a 3-hour show on St. Louis crime and what's going on and detainees. Is it true that there was applause last night at the St. Louis County Council meeting when somebody spoke and wanted Sam Page fired?
Oh, no question. I mean, all the people that came, people have been asking for his resignation for a bit, and a couple of reasons. One, and there's going to be an ethics committee hearing Thursday in St. Louis County, I have to get the time, about his secondary employment. The council, thankfully, is not letting that go. I mean, the amount of time he is working while county executive, while he's being an anesthesiologist, it violates the charter. The idea that he can have a part-time job, and people have heard that he works significant hours at the hospital, not just once or twice a month for charity. This guy is making money. He is not. This is what's insane to me, is that this guy is lining his own pocket. It's for his own money. It's not for any other purpose, and it's not to keep his license. You don't need to practice to keep your license. All you have to do is your continuing medical education, which you can do. So this guy evidently has time to do all of his continuing medical education. He has time to, to do operations in the middle of the night and during business hours and be county executive during a pandemic. I mean, no.
Real quick for our
People
listeners, Jane.
elected him for a full-time job.
He
and they're
did
gonna
not
keep
show up at the
investigating.
meeting last night,
No, he
right?
did. He was on vacation,
Yeah.
apparently.
He was on vacation, and what's interesting is the county council sent letters to Western Anesthesiology, which is where he works, and Mercy Hospital, saying we want all records about how much he has worked as an anesthesiologist, and they asked for voluntary compliance, and neither entity responded. So now the next step will be on Thursday discussing that they're going to probably issue subpoenas to get the records. So, they're going to hold them accountable. They're also doing hearings on the care spending. They've asked the state for an audit of the care spending because there are some really ridiculous expenditures, the $2 million morgue, spending tens of millions of dollars on a hotel that nobody stayed at. There's just a lot of problems with expenditures, and they are basically saying we're not going to spend a dime of this money until we find out what happened to the last tranche of money. So I do appreciate that somebody is looking over the expenditures, and they just, the business relief fund was a joke. It took 8 or 9 months to get that money out. Well, a lot of businesses had already died before, that money got out. And so there were just a lot of problems with it. And the council, rightfully so, does not want to step into another, nightmare, programs with this money. And by the way, the $173 million, they didn't even spend it all.
Wow.
So there's 20 or 30 million sitting there, and they got an extension from the feds, which is fine. But the reason why it's not spent is because there's oversight now.
Gene, I want to I want to invite you to come to Firebirds, and I want to give you a tour of St. Charles, Missouri, run by Republicans, and it is a very
Jane knows about St. Charles
very
County.
comfortable over here. We have no apologies.
Steve
How
Ellman
we
is actually one of my favorite people.
fantastic?
He's a
Why?
Republican, but he is somebody that I have worked with over the years. And he's a wonderful man. And, I don't agree with him on everything, but there is never a time when I can't sit down
Why
and
is
talk
that?
to
Why
Steve
does
Ellman.
this philosophy not work over in St. Louis? How amazing would St. Louis County be if you could just take this politics and just kind of boom and plant it right over there? We want business development. We want streets of St. Charles all over the
That's the way
place.
the county used to be, even under Democrats.
Well, why can't we
But there's
just
a
shift
new
that?
Democratic wave. Well, the good news is, though, I do think the new council makeup is
Yes,
going to make a big difference.
absolutely.
I do. And they don't want to shut businesses down anymore. They were the ones. I mean, when you've got, 2 African-American females who are supporting a bill in Jefferson City that will curb Sam Page's power. I mean, let's face it, that bill was because of Sam Page. So all these other health
That's
directors that are
big.
pissed off, they need to call Sam and say, Sam, this is your fault.
Yeah.
And, because they realized that the unchecked power, sadly, we had to have legislation because the worst director, the other health directors did not get in fights with their local governments. Sam Page was the only one during a pandemic to start a fight with his own council.
Hey, Jane.
So, that's pretty extraordinary, actually.
Jane,
And
one
so-
more question. We'll get it in because I know we've had you for a long
Yes,
time.
we've kept you. Jane, I just want to say that if we had someone like you representing the Democrat Party, the world would be such a better place.
Yes.
And I'm really concerned. I know there's moderate Democrats out there. I know there are. Why is
there are a lot of us?
But why is the Democrat Party allowing these far left progressives to run the party? They're just ruining.
Great
I mean, our entire society. I
have to
don't
say is
understand
that's
it.
why we're in a super minority in Jefferson City. I mean, there's the people who are running the party, sadly, I mean, look at our numbers in Jefferson City. Look at the fact that we have only been able to elect one statewide official. Now, granted, this is a pretty right-wing state, but there shouldn't be a reason why Democrats don't win. It will be very interesting because I think who our Senate candidate, and I think there's a lot of machinations going on right now, but I think who our Senate candidate will be a very interesting thing because, one, this seat, like if Eric Greitens is nominated by the Republicans, the Democrats have a shot to take it. They really do.
He's not going to be nominated.
I think I would not say that so far. Right now, I mean, I don't know if you saw the Moscow poll over the weekend, but he is at least 8 or 9 points ahead of any other Republican candidate right now. And the more candidates you have in the race, the more likely he wins because he's got
That's
a kook
true.
base that won't leave him. it's weird. But okay, but I'm just saying, because that's what Democrats need to be thinking about, is we could actually take this seat if they, nominate Eric Greitens.
And Greitens was a lifelong Democrat.
We're not going to get that with, it's going to have to be a moderate for us to be able to take.
Look, here's the deal. These socialist politicians, they are the nirvana of, this is a flash in the pan. There's no way they cannot sustain this ridiculous ignorance.
No,
they can't.
So and what is frustrating about it is they have no experience. They don't really know anything about government, and they act like nothing happened before they were born.
Right.
And it's very, that's frustrating.
Well, Jane, there's a lot.
Tell you, the right-wing Republicans aren't doing that great either. I mean, we need to ignore them as well. So we need moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats.
Moderate on all sides.
Let's go have a picnic together somewhere.
I'm in, baby.
Not in the city.
With a ride in the Lamborghini.
Jane Duker.
Not in the city, though.
You can
not under the arch.
Follow Jane Duker on Twitter.
Definitely not after 8.
I love coming. Someday I hope you let me come in person.
Yes, please.
Are you kidding me? We wanted you. You're so busy with all your jobs.
Yeah, I know, but I like coming on because you guys like to actually talk about some detail, which is refreshing.
All right. You called it. We'll be in touch to get you in here. But you're going to have to drive to St. Charles County.
That's okay. I'll let Steve know I'm coming.
Good.
So he can, lock everything down. Crazy Democrat lady's coming.
Jane Duker, representation for St. Louis City and County Police, lobbyist, attorney, mom. Thanks again, Jane. Appreciate your help.
Have a great day, guys.
All
Always
right.
a pleasure.
Wow, we got to take a quick break. Good radio. It's fast. It always goes by fast. Eric, I know you would. You can't have any time with Jane Duker because you won't stop asking questions.
The rest of us want to ask questions too.
Yeah,
I understand.
Come on now.
I understand. It's like being in the front.
Should be like, check, please, check.
We need one of those
machines
machines that gives us each a timer.
And then
it says 3 minutes. When it's over, it moves on to the next person.
Debate style.
Yeah.
And then electronically, it clamps the other person's mouth.
Is Eric going Trump?
No.
Eric Johnson, Chris Knight, Tabitha Hassell. I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2. We got to take a quick break. We'll come right back with the morning headlines. Thanks for watching and listening. Share the show, 100.7 The Viper on Facebook. We got so much to talk about when we come back. The airline industry, what in the hell is going on with Southwest? Chris will talk about his experience yesterday. Trump's going to the border because Kamala Harris and Biden won't. We'll see where all of that goes. Mandatory vaccines for hospital workers. My gosh, there's a lot to talk to. And an interesting tidbit that Tabitha posted about the news anchor who supposedly his death is being investigated as a suicide.
It's a very strange story.
We're going to get into details. My agent represents him, and my agent, who's one of my really good friends, was his agent. He's like, Vic, there's no way in hell he did this. He's like, Vic, he reminded me of you. He was a happy guy, all about his wife and his kids.
Right.
I have kids, not a wife. But the same point being, he's like, Vic, he's like, people
It doesn't add up.
Everybody that knows him is like, wait a second. We'll get into that too. You won't want to miss it. You're listening to The Edge. And of course, join the Facebook message line if you want to. Back right after this.
This is the Edge Morning Show.
Live on 100.7.
The Viper.
Today, I'm taking it to the streets to give people the good news. Oh, excuse me. Hello. I'm Flo from Progressive. And did you know...
No, I'm just waiting for the bus.
So then you have time to hear about how with Home Quote Explorer, you can check if you're paying too much for home insurance.
Yeah, if I was interested in talking to you, which I'm not.
Okay, I'll do the talking and you just check if you can be saving, which is going to be pretty hard to do if you put on your headphones. Okay.
See if you're paying too much for home insurance with Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations.
Mark your calendars for barbecue. June 19th, Overstock Outlet is hosting the St. Charles County Young Marines and Marine Corps League. Show your support. Barbecue available 11 till 3. Overstock Outlet, 8621 Highway N, Lake St. Louis.
Time for some upgrades? A new deck, a privacy fence, or maybe a whole new look with new siding. But who do you call? What you gonna do? Call Bad Boys Construction LLC. They are locally owned and have over 30 years experience in every kind of fencing, siding, and deck jobs. Free estimates and everything is done right the first time. Bad Boys Construction is veteran owned and gives military discounts. So what you gonna do? Call Bad Boys Construction LLC. Online at badboysconstructionllc.godaddysite.com. On Facebook at Bad Boys Construction LLC.
Now another hour of The Edge Morning Show on KFNS Troy St. Charles. The Edge Morning Show.
Whether you're a pro on the job site or managing properties, clean and safe is your #1 priority. And Lowe's has the pro-grade cleaning supplies you need. We go beyond the basics, bringing you commercial cleaning from top brands like Clorox, Zep, and Rubbermaid. And in larger sizes, so you can take on any cleaning job, knowing you have the quantity you need. Shop Lowe'sForPros.com and have your items delivered or pick up in store. Lowe's, the new home for pros. U.S. only.
All right, is that a Q2 or a Q3 expense?
Dwayne's CPA went MIA. To keep his books and his sanity, he needs to find a replacement ASAP.
Hey, Johnny, have you ever heard of a fungible good?
Indeed can help him hire the people he needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Since 1987, Illy HVAC has taken care of your heating and cooling needs. Call Illy HVAC today at 314-808-2162. 314-808-2162.
Viper Weather with legendary chief meteorologist Dave Murray.
For the middle of June, still some pretty nice weather around the region. Lots of sunshine today. Yes, it is warm, 88 degrees, nothing crazy, but the humidity levels are still comfortable. Tonight, clear skies, dropping quickly out of the 80s once the sun goes down. Remember, we're in the longest days of the year now. 64 will do it for the low. On Thursday, lots of sunshine. It's hot, but still humidity levels are okay. We'll call it moderate on Thursday. 93 degrees Friday, partly sunny, hot and humid. 99 to 100. The record is 100 from 1953. Count on some scattered thunderstorms around Friday night and a little bit cooler by about 10 degrees over the weekend. From the Viper Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray. Now back to the Edge on 100.7, The Viper.
Whipper River Electric, a Touchstone Energy cooperative. The Edge Morning Show.
Local headlines now with Fox 2's Vic Faust.
Hey, let's start our morning headlines with some good news. Cardinals won their second straight game. I told you the Marlins were exactly what the doctor ordered. They're tough games, but the Cardinals have won the last two, thanks to a walk-off home run by Paul Goldschmidt, who's had a really bad season. I love the guy because even last night, after delivering both RBIs to help the Cardinals win 2-1, he was apologizing to fans last night in his press conference because he said he hasn't played how he should. Love you, Paul. Thanks for recognizing that. Cardinals now only 4 games out of first place because the Cubs lost again. By the way, you can get 2 Cardinals tickets when you vaccinate at the plate. That's what they call it. You can know more information if you're wanting to get a vaccine and get some Cardinals tickets out of it. It's on fox2now.com. Today, of course, is the big meeting between President Biden and President Putin. They have a huge meeting today. What's going to come out of that? Not quite sure. We'll have updates on that coming up today on Fox 2 News at 5 as well. If you didn't see yet, and we'll talk about this in just a moment, dive a little bit deeper into it. BJC requiring all employees to be vaccinated by September or possibly lose their job. Now talk of WashU, Mercy, and SSM Health all following suit and doing the same thing. We'll see where that goes as well. President Trump has been invited to the border in Texas by Governor Greg Abbott, and Trump's going. This in response to Kamala Harris not going to the border or President Joe Biden. Another issue we'll talk about here in just a moment. More flight interruptions with Southwest. If anybody was trying to fly out yesterday or deal with people flying in.
Don't fly Southwest.
Southwest.
Today also.
Had major issues yesterday, canceling several flights. The reason they say is a technical issue. What is the technical issue they're talking about? have absolutely no idea what all of that is about, but that's what's going on. More problems we're hearing about today as well. The weather, at least in the state of Missouri, is supposed to be absolutely amazing today. Resort-like, if you have a chance, get out, enjoy it, because it's going to be a record-breaking day by Friday. They're talking temperatures over 100 with humidity. Look out! And the jury is deliberating in St. Louis City with 2 former St. Louis police officers charged with beating an undercover officer. That's a look at your morning headlines. I'm Vic Faust.
The Edge Morning Show.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I just looked down at the comment line. Yeah, I made a mistake. I called President Trump. It's former President Trump. My bad.
Oh, you didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, I did. He's not the president.
You were just
Even though
speaking for all of us.
Even though you think he is not. I made a mistake there. Anyway, that's true. I'm always legit. I try to be legit. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. The one and only Edge. Eric Johnson, Chris Knight, and Tabitha Hassell. I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2, the fastest 2 hours of morning talk radio you'll find anywhere. Special thanks to Jane Duker. I'm telling you what, Eric, if you weren't a take-in and a committed man, I think you'd be all over Jane Duker because you got excited listening to Jane Duker talk.
Okay. So this whole show, the reason I do it is because I'm trying to learn. I'm legitimate. I feel like Tabitha has a very solid cutting point of view, and she's not going to deviate from that. I feel like you're kind of looking at this from a journalistic aspect. Chris is here for the money. And, and I legitimately come into this show every day like I want to be a student. And I have so many questions. I don't trust anything. I don't trust anybody. And Jane is a liberal Democrat. I would literally
Very nice lady.
Very nice. I think she would be perfect on this show because she can answer the questions that we cannot figure out. We cannot answer these damn questions. Why would you want to hire a mayor that takes away your police force? Number one. Number two, why would you put into schools critical race theory when it is a destructive force and it is damn well mind control is what it is?
Maybe.
No, it is.
Maybe.
We know what it is.
We broke it down yesterday. We can get into that as well.
So my question to Jane is, I need someone like that to explain to me from the other side of the tracks and say, look, let me break this down for you. And then at the end of the day, I might look at Jane and go, damn, that makes sense. Okay, now I get it. I don't think she will because I don't think she would agree with anything that we would try to get answers for. So, yes, I would love to hang out with people like Jane more often because she's level-headed. She doesn't seem like she's radicalized in her thought processes. I know that Tabitha is not. She's not radicalized, but she definitely. You're not going to push her off of her perch.
But it's not about me. I like to ask questions because I want to inform the listeners.
Tabitha's a radical.
I am not a radical. I am further over to one side than
when you're
some
talking
people are.
when you're talking militias, you're a radical.
Well, there's a lot of people in
sorry.
militias. That's how the country was founded. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a militia. I mean, that's what our Constitution is about. But when I ask questions, it's not really, sometimes it's for me, but usually I already have the answers. I'm just looking for someone else's opinion, and I'm looking for the opinion for the listeners.
Well, it is interesting that Jane was at that Board of Aldermen meeting yesterday, and she said the African-American community, the Black Caucus, going after Tashara Jones about safety, saying, we want police in our neighborhoods. We never said that. But then, of course, in a sit-down exclusive interview I did with the mayor, Tashara Jones, she told me, well, in her neighborhood where she lives, they say they don't want as much police and they want to be safe. So I don't know.
And that's laughable. It's laughable.
It's back
so
and
you're going to
forth.
be safe. You don't want police in your neighborhood. You think that makes you safer to not have police. And guess what? It's a proven fact that when a police officer parks his vehicle on a block and sits there in his vehicle and once in a while gets out and walks around, crime goes down. Because you know what? People are not going to commit a crime when there's a police officer sitting right there in their vehicle watching. It is a fact.
Well, we're going to have Jane back on. She offered it. There you go.
I really like Jane. I wish that the majority of Democrats, I believe, are like Jane. But unfortunately, the liberal progressives, as is so much in this country right now, the very small minority of the far left seem to be calling all of the shots.
Well, sometimes you deal with certain things that you may agree with or you may not agree with, and we're dealing with that right now. We talked about this yesterday, and now all of a sudden, BJC coming out. And you have a friend, I guess, Tabitha, that
I
you
do have a
spoke
friend
to.
that works with BJC. Correct.
BJC says get vaccinated by September or
September
else.
15th. Or, yeah, I mean, there's no option
But
there unless you have
but
a religious
why,
exemption.
But why wait all the way up until September?
I think because it allows them the time to schedule. Not that it's hard to schedule these days, but that's my
They're
best
wide
guess.
open.
Yeah.
The reason this all came about is because nobody's getting vaccinated anymore.
you think-
everybody who wanted a vaccination, if that's for you or not, shots have been put in those arms?
Is it because they expect the next wave in the fall?
Ding, 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 ding. Or at least that's where I was going.
Yeah, and
And
I'm
they're
sure that
already
it is.
and how they're predicting, health officials, when I say they're predicting this stuff already behind the scenes. That's a little fishy.
And why don't they do
Actually,
the same thing?
more than a little
Why don't they
fishy.
do it for the flu? 60 to 80,000 people each flu season die from the flu. Why don't they do the same precautions for the flu? They don't. They don't mandate flu shots. I've never had a flu shot. They don't mandate flu shots. No one makes me feel guilty for not getting a flu shot.
Well, right now, if you talk to attorneys, they'll say these companies can force you.
They
to
can.
Get,
They're
to get.
yes.
They already are.
vaccinated.
You go to a hospital, you're going to look at each one of those doctors and understand by fall they will all have a needle stuck in their arm or they're not going to be working there. Unless, apparently, you say, hey, I'm a Muslim and I can't get that shot.
Right.
Because
A
it's
medical, religious exemption is the only option. And it's really distressing to me. I know some doctors who work for various hospitals who've not been vaccinated, who don't want to be vaccinated. And these are medical professionals, medical doctors who should know how to manage their own health and their own body. Why should they be forced to get vaccinated?
Well, once again, the CDC now having a meeting this week, it's Friday or Monday, to deal with all of the, quote, enlarged heart situations, the myocarditis that's happening, especially in males under the age of 30 and all the way down into kids, boys who have gotten the vaccine. So it's very interesting that the CDC also put that out publicly, like, well, we got to figure out what's going on because something bad is happening. Not with everybody, but with enough people to go,
Enough
oh my
people.
gosh, wow.
Enough people
Maybe
where
we
I
need
know
to look at
several.
something.
Is that a side effect or is that permanent?
Which part?
Gosh, let's hope.
Oh, it can be deadly.
Let's hope
And it's-
it can be
yeah.
deadly, but let's hope this myocarditis is temporary.
Okay.
I have a friend who just told me this past week that they believe their mother passed away because of the vaccine.
It's not a pleasant thought if you've gotten the vaccine and you're listening to all of this.
It's
I can
not.
tell you that
and
much.
you know what? People who've had the vaccine, you need to watch your health. Make sure you monitored your symptoms and don't write it off. Because my own family member was having health issues after getting the vaccine, and guess what? They had an enlarged heart, and they have been sick ever since.
So a friend of mine,
and out of the hospital.
a friend of mine from SSM, he is got a practical nurse, a PN, I don't know. He says they do require every year a flu shot.
Yeah, I'm from the Facebook line. Somebody just
What?
said that. They said, Tabitha, incorrect. I had to get a flu shot when I worked at WashU.
Okay, I was not aware that healthcare workers had to get a flu shot. I've never worked in a
Yeah,
hospital.
BJC
so
also requires you
thank
to
you
get
for
the flu
correcting me.
From the Facebook line,
I
BJC
did not
also
know that.
requires you to get that as well. So, I don't know. It's from the Facebook line. Can we have one day where we all get along?
Yes.
I thought that was Eric writing that.
That was not
as
me that
Amy
wrote
Bittner.
that. It was not me that wrote that. I see. Here's the thing with Facebook.
We do. It's about talking. It's
Here's
about having
yeah.
discussions that are important where people can agree to disagree and get information out.
Here's the deal
Absolutely.
with Facebook. And this is the truth. This is the deal with Twitter. This is the deal with Snapchat. Any of these social media platforms. Whenever there is something a little bit edgy, for lack of a better word, you can get so mad at somebody online. But
Or right here in the station.
Or right here in the station. But what's worse is it is so easy to use your two thumbs to just go and
It
cap on
is.
somebody.
And see, I can actually reach you.
Right. Well, your arms are too small. They're like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex coming at me. But if we were to say have a party, go have a picnic, like we talked to Jane, nobody would be yelling at each
No,
other.
typically not.
It would be discussion, but we would laugh and we'd throw each other a beer, and we would that's how they used to do it in the old days. Do you have any doubt why things are so polarized today?
I absolutely know exactly why.
It would not
because
be this
people
polarized back
are
in the 80s and the
intolerant.
90s and the 2000s and the 70s and the 60s. It's not that polarizing.
It's misinformation and intolerance. You know, when I wore that 1776 T-shirt the other day,
You mean the one that was ripped down and like your chest was hanging out?
My chest was not hanging out. I mean, any shirt I have, my chest is going to hang out. But I took the neck down a little bit because most women's T-shirts are V-necked, and this was round neck, and I can't stand anything around my neck, so I always cut the neck out of round T-shirts. Anyway, I went to the store after I left here, and there was a man who came up to me and gave me the death stare, looking at that shirt, and I kind of laughed because I really dared him to say something.
How do you know what he was thinking?
Because he looked at my shirt and he looked at me and he was clear. He just stood there staring
He might
at
have
me.
just said
clearly disgusted.
He might have been disgusted with how you made the shirt.
Look at your
Oh no!
look
my
how
cleavage was not showing in that shirt. The
Yes, it
camera's from
was.
above in here.
No, we're not talking about the camera. We're talking about when you just walk out and about.
No, it was not. And I've worn much lower cut shirts than
He
that
was
to
the
the
pastor
grocery
at the
store.
local church, Tabitha. I'm just telling you.
No. No, it was not that. And I thought about it, and I've been thinking about it ever since. Like, what is so offensive about 1776? There's nothing offensive about 1776.
Absolutely. There shouldn't be.
Unless you're British. I mean, and this guy was not, allegedly didn't appear to be British. But, Eric, people are intolerant and they're misinformed. And when people are intolerant and misinformed, they just can't get along.
And that's the truth. And I hate that about social media.
It's not changing, Eric.
Yeah, that's
nothing. Our country is divided. We've talked about this several times.
It wouldn't be this divided.
Not only is the country divided, this area, the St. Louis metropolitan area, is divided, and what's happening in the city when it comes to policing and safety and the workhouse and prosecution and ideas of prosecution and bills being put forward to decriminalize, fentanyl and drugs. And these are the kind of issues that are divisive. And then you get into what you brought up earlier, critical race theory. And what is critical race theory? And what type of critical race theory, if at all taught, should be taught? It's not a matter of, quote, going against what's happened in history, because if you want to learn about history, you learn about history. There's only so much time in a class that you can learn about history, as we know, for kids. So what gets in, what gets out, and then when you're teaching, whether it be critical race theory or something else, who's teaching it? What's the flavor? How is it being presented?
Okay,
to
let me answer
kids
that. Let me
and
answer
other
that.
people?
Let me
It should
hold
be
on.
taught in the home.
Let me answer that. So you bring a great point. I have no problem if you want to say in 1619, some Westerners went over to the Gold Coast in Africa, and they talked to the tribesmen, and they sold people like commodities, and then they brought them to the United States, where we bought people like commodities, and then you didn't editorialize that at all. I have no problem with that. But when you start to say that the reason they brought people over here was to extend race or slavery, the reason that this country was formed, and this is what critical race theory teaches, is that it was a bastion for a place where we could still have slaves. That's not true. It is, if you want to talk about the archaeological effects of history, we're cool. We have no problems. I want to learn about the Pilgrims. I want to learn about the Indians or the indigenous people or whatever you want to call them. I want to learn about how did the slavery start in this country. But the truth of the matter,
and kids do learn about those things already without critical race theory.
The truth of the matter, politically and officially, 1776, there was a contract that was written that said, "We secede from you, England." That was the beginning of this country. Period. Discussion is over. Archaeologically, ideologically, however you want to put it, that's it. Now, when you want to change the narrative, Vic, we've got a massive problem, because that's not teaching anymore. That is indoctrinating. And that's what that's a no-go for me.
Which
man.
is why I've said on this show, whatever is being taught, whatever is being agreed to, parents need to know, schools need to put it out, and everybody's on the same page, and what's being taught, not like what happened at Rockwood, where you had a teacher say, "Don't tell parents what's being taught."
Right.
Right.
That's a great point.
Because parents,
that's a great point.
Parents need to know.
Absolutely.
Or parents need to make the sacrifices somehow, some way, to stop it.
Yeah.
To put up a fight, to say, and parents haven't begun to really fight like they should if they disagree.
Yeah.
And they need to know, and they need to let their school boards know what's going on. They can't just sit back and be comfortable in society, as many families and people are, especially in suburbia, with their happy lives and their bubbles. You need to go out and you're going to have to fight. And if you don't, then you take what's coming out. But you need to know, everybody needs to be on the same page, what's being taught, agreed upon. And then if you have the means and you're going to go out and work a second job like I do to send your kid to a different type of school, you go do that. And you make sure you know what's being taught to your
I mean, do they
kids.
still send school? I don't have a school-age child. Do they still send school books home? When I was a kid, we had school books we brought home. Our parents could see the homework we're working on and the curriculum through that. But in my opinion, it is the parents' responsibility or the caregiver's responsibility to teach their child about racism, because racism, yes, it is part of history and it needs to be taught in history class. But at the same time, it is the parents' job to instill values in your child.
Two of my friends, one in the great northwest, and another person that's here, they're African Americans, both of them, and both of them are female, by the way, their moms, have pulled their kids out of public school because of this critical race theory already. Because they're so disgusted. They do not want their kids to be taught racism. They don't want to be, and they might go back. Hell, they might go back.
But once again, when we say critical race theory, I always try to dive into a topic. We need to know what it is and what exactly the
cement of this
taught.
Fantastic. The cement of critical race theory is, Vic, I'm afraid that you're white. You're an oppressor. No matter what you say from this point forward means nothing.
If
you're an
that
oppressor.
is indeed being taught, that's a problem.
It is. Look at the curriculum. And in the military, and in not just colleges anymore, but all the way down to kindergarten. And they're going to add upon this crap. And they're going to start to use this word equity. And equity is supposed to mean, I don't even know what equity means, to be honest with you, anymore. It used to be equality. Now it's equity, which is something totally different.
It's all just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Why are we making kids feel oppressed that we weren't even born when slavery existed, or for the most part, during most of the systemic racism? Why are we instilling this in kids and telling them, because you're white, you're oppressed? You weren't alive back then. Your parents weren't alive back then. But because of what your grandparents and their ancestors did, you are the oppressor, and you should feel guilty for being white.
There's a philosophy, and it's very true. Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
And that is the problem
and we
here.
Have to teach
and that's
it.
why
Absolutely.
That's why you don't teach false math, is because if you don't understand how to build a house properly or to do things with mathematics, your society falls apart. So you teach math properly. If you teach history improperly, you will be doomed to repeat said history that you don't want to repeat.
By definition, and we had Kelvin Carter, who called us up last week unexpected, who works in St. Louis City Schools, very well respected, gave us an awesome perspective last week.
Yes.
He's trying to give us an idea of CRT, critical race theory, at least from a definition standpoint of what it is. He says on the Facebook line, an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States who seek to critically examine the law as it intersects with issues of race and to challenge mainstream liberal approaches to racial justice. Critical race theory examines social, cultural, and legal issues as they relate to race and racism. Now, there's a lot that could be thrown in there, which is why I say you have to know exactly what's being taught, because never, ever should any kid be taught or told you are the problem, you are the reason there are problems going on with another race or certain situations. That, Eric, is, to use your term, would be considered indoctrination.
It's indoctrination.
And if you look that up in the vocabulary, you would see that as well.
How do you think that Marxism started? Marxism started with the idea that give us all of your power, give us all of your wealth, give us all of everything that you have to the motherland. We will take care of you and we will become this strong nation. Do you know what happens every time a country does that? They become poorer. They become self-sustaining. They become a country like Russia. They become a country like pick your third world country. That is what people are trying to do to the United States. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's working. It is working, people. If you don't, the soccer moms of the world, stand up to critical race theory. If you, the soccer moms of the world, don't stand up to more policing. And I'm not talking about just bringing back the police that you need. I'm talking about putting another 50% on top of your police forces right now and not apologizing for what is going on. Because otherwise, just find a nice country. Hell, I saw a video today of Geneva where the president was with Putin. I was like, damn, that looks like a nice place to live. That's what you're going to have to start thinking of, or start looking at a state that does not do this. And this is a plea to Parson right now. This is a plea to Parson. Governor Parsons, if you're listening, I need you to put together a doctrine that says that critical race theory will be outlawed in this state, period. And then I need the legislator to sign off on said contract, because that has to happen in the state of Missouri right now.
Well, we take phone calls as well when we have time. Right now, we do 636-695-2915, 636-695-2915. Tabitha, you think you've jumped over into Chris's spot. Yeah, Chris is out
I'm
on
not
smoke break.
100% sure how to answer the phone.
Chris
but
is out on smoke break.
I may have answered
We'll
it.
give this a shot. If we're on the phone line, we'll go to it. Caller, we don't know your name or where you're calling from, but who are you, where are you calling from, and what's on your mind?
Are they not there?
Okay, that did.
My name's Jeff, and I'm on the West Coast. And I guess I just have questions really for the show regarding why critical race theory is so triggering for everyone.
Okay, great
have
question.
Have you really, looked into this, or
Yes.
have you ever listened to, podcasts like the 1619 Project? What are your sources? I'm really trying to understand.
What are your sources? That's a great question. What are your sources?
Yeah, sure. So I've actually listened to the 1619 Project, and it's really a great historical breakdown of what's happened in the United States. I mean, obviously, the Declaration, like 1776, is important, but Thomas Jefferson wasn't born in 1776. John Adams wasn't born in 1776. Our country began before 1776.
Well, you could go back thousands of years
Jamestown.
if you really want to get into it. You could go back thousands of years. It has nothing to do with the time. Actually, you're correct. The Mayfair came over, and we had Christopher Columbus, who you guys don't want to talk about ever. And then we had this.
What do you mean, you guys? What are you talking about?
Well, then you had this thing called slavery, which was an abomination. Nobody on this planet will say that. No one in this room, anyway, will say anything good about slavery. No one. So, but what we're talking what we're talking about in this room right now, man, is that 5, 6, 7-year-old kids up to seniors in high school are being told, "Wow, you're a white person," and this is the truth, and you know what I'm talking about. You're a white person. You need to atone for what your people have done to these people over here, who are the victims and who we need to bring back up. No, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
I'm actually on the board of a local school in St. Louis, and I do have a young daughter who does go to a private school out here where we live.
Yes.
And that's not been our experience at all. If anything, they've really tried to help educate the kids on, why we have some of the systemic issues that we do, why systemic racism is costing the U.S. economy trillions. Even today, we're trying to really solve problems. We're not, trying to blame anyone, for systemic racism if they're not.
I understand what you're saying.
Look, causing it, but
Jeff,
there are certain
what are some
structural issues that are in place, like regarding inheritance, regarding the disparities in healthcare, regarding the disparities in education, that I think really need to be addressed. And really, if you think about us as a community, like all of us, you guys,
How about this?
As well as
How about
me,
this?
outsiders,
Wait.
all ships rise with the tide.
You're right about that. But
It's
how
really
about this?
important
How about this?
to understand.
I want to
systemic
find
issues.
common ground. I want to agree with you. How about this? Let's pretend on this planet Earth, there's no such thing as not the planet Earth, in the Western civilization, we're not oppressors anymore. There's no white people that live to oppress other people. If there were, the nightly news would have it all over the place. Let's just agree on that. Let's agree that white people, Chinese people, Latinos, even other African Americans are trying to help everybody that they can become amazing people, become beneficiaries of this great place that we've developed called the United States. And let's just agree that we're trying to help everybody. But to demonize somebody, even if it's just... you understand what I'm saying?
I told you my experience and my child's experience. And this last year, having the pandemic and being able to listen to what our teachers are actually, teaching our kids, that just hasn't been my experience.
Okay, would
and
you
we
agree?
appreciate. Hey, thank you for calling. By the way,
I want to ask
One
him a
more
question
question.
no,
before
we're
he
not
goes.
getting rid of him. I just
Okay.
wanted to thank him for calling in because we're
'Cause
always
Eric has, like,
asking
20
for
questions.
everybody to give their perspective. And
I love
have-
it. I love
and
it.
have mature conversations.
Absolutely.
And Jeff, that's why I appreciate you calling from West County.
One more
and doing this.
One
So-
more question, then I'll throw it to Tab. One more question.
And
I'll
I
throw it
know
to Tab.
Jeff, and Jeff is a very respectable person. He lives
is.
in
No,
Los
this is how
Angeles, and he's
conversations
actually a
should
friend
be
of mine.
held.
That's
Absolutely.
great. What would be my question to you, and then I'll throw it to Tabla. What would be the threshold for you where you said, you know what Eric said on the radio, that's actually correct? What would there be a threshold where you go, yeah, I'm not teaching my kid that? What would that line be where you like, I'm out?
Look, I try to keep it simple. With my kid, just don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal. All right, let's just start there, okay? And you just got to take things as they come. I don't have an answer for you.
But if you ever heard that your kid was being taught that he or she is a oppressor, you'd be like, that is enough of that. Would you agree?
I haven't heard that, and that hasn't been what that hasn't been what I've seen when it comes to critical or the 1619
Yeah, and that's
project.
exactly, and that's why people need to become educated, because if any race is made to feel or taught that they're less than because of something that might have happened or something that did happen in the past, that would be an issue. That would be called indoctrination. I think we could all agree with that.
Yeah, thanks, Vic, for bringing that up. If anything, what I've learned is race has been this sort of man-made, construct that was used to divide people.
Interesting.
Hey, Jeff.
Because black people have more melanin in their skin, versus white people, it just means that, if you look at a tree and there are a lot of different leaves on that tree, but you still have a tree. That's just the reality of it.
Hey, Jeff, you brought up the fact that systemic racism costs the country billions of dollars. I'm just curious
Trillions.
if you can give us some examples of that, because in my own personal life, and obviously I'm saying this as a white person, I ask people, what are some examples of systemic racism? Have you ever been, held back due to systemic racism? No one has ever been able to say, yes, I have. They've experienced prejudice, of course. Some people are prejudiced, but not actual racism. So what are some of these examples?
Okay, so one example would be think about inheriting property, right? When did segregation end in the United States? That's a question for anyone on the show.
Right.
That's a good question.
Honestly, I don't even know. Back in the 70s or 60s.
Legal segregation.
1954?
Yeah, it was 20th
Right.
century.
1954, legal segregation ended in the United States with Brown versus Board of Education. So think about property that, I don't know, black families, could have bought, like in Tulsa, for instance. There was a lot of property there, but unfortunately it was destroyed. But think about other communities in St. Louis where black people, maybe could have bought property and weren't allowed to based on their race, right?
But you could say this
now,
about
the
American
next
Indians
generation
as well.
cannot inherit homes, from those families versus, their peers that might, have inheritances from, their parents and families where, they could buy property.
Let's agree on that. Let's agree that.
And that's what they're
Are
paying.
you finally agreeing with me that there's systemic racism?
I hate that word, systemic racism. I hate that. It's a stupid word.
But that's not. But that's not the
structural.
And I understand that. But that's
fantastic.
But that's something.
Money.
You're never going to get an argument out of me. I agree with you, but here's the deal. But you're going to have to understand that the people in this room and the majority of white people, if there's a problem, we want to help somehow, some way. We're in that environment right now. This is not 1940. This is not 1910. This is not 1960. There's no water hoses spraying people anymore. We're in a different environment right now.
Can I talk to Jeff? Because you've talked a lot. And I just want to talk.
caller
I know,
on the line.
but I've not been able to talk to Jeff yet because Eric has talked the entire time.
Well, I've got a lot of questions. Do you want to bring on the other guy right now? It's up to you guys.
But can we bring them on together, Chris?
Go ahead.
Can I talk to Jeff for a second, for God's sakes? Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Because she's the star of the show.
Eric.
Eric. She doesn't want to mess with you.
Who
Vic.
talks for 20 minutes. Eric.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And I love everything you're saying, by the way. Jeff, I want to find out, those are examples of systemic racism a long time ago. I want to know how people are affected today by systemic racism. What examples do you have that's happening today, that we are doing today, that is keeping people back because of their race?
Good
Because
question.
the examples
Good
you're giving us
question.
from a long time ago not only apply to black people, but Native Americans and other groups of people who were also held back in the day,
Well,
Japanese and
absolutely.
Chinese.
Absolutely, that was majors, and there are the casinos now in certain
And that's
areas,
true,
like
yes.
Connecticut and other areas, right?
Correct.
The Japanese that were in internment camps certainly were had reparations. That was
Correct.
important. But when you look at the wealth gap, when you look at those that are inheriting property, because they could buy, like their families could buy in certain areas. But black families couldn't buy in those areas, right? So now you've got a generation of people that are actually inheriting this wealth, and you have another generation of black families that are not. They're not participating in that. That's one impact. That's one example of how structural racism impacts people like today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Jeff, hold on the line. We want to bring on Kelvin Carter, St. Louis Public Schools, St. Louis City Public Schools. He's been in the district for at least 20 years. He joined us over a week ago and called in. Kelvin, was there something that you wanted to educate us on or add to the conversation or tell Jeff?
Well, I think, first of all, thanks for having me on. When you talk about CRT, it's an academic piece that's actually for higher ed, and it's more of an ongoing study and a continued collaboration. So, in my opinion, they threw the buzzword CRT out there because there's such a push against that construct. But in public schools, intentionally K through 12, I believe that when all groups aren't really informed about how we got to a certain point, it is very challenging to move forward. So he brought up the point about the property, right? So in St. Louis, it was redlined. And what it means is they redlined a certain group of area and didn't allow that area to, let's just say, matriculate and or appraise at a certain value. So you have the same homeowners that pay the same mortgages, and 20 years later, when you get done paying for your house and you have this equity or this money that is built up over time, one group has $40,000, the other group has $400,000. And when they transition this to the next group, there's an inherent head start. Now, that's not the children's fault, but if we're going to change this thing, like everybody on this show says, hey, there's no water hoses, we want to move forward, blah, 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 then at the end of the day, I think the groups that are going to be at the table have to understand, like, whoa, this was kind of unfair at this point, but moving forward, let's educate one another and let's move forward together. And I just don't know if we can move forward in a together capacity if anybody at the table or one group is oblivious to how we got to this point. Because there are a group of people that believe that public housing and these things are here because somebody wanted to live in that space.
Did you know you're an educator?
No,
Did you know
that's a great
it's
point,
a fantastic
though, Eric.
point.
It is. I mean,
I have no problem with that.
I've been saying that for over a year on the show.
Yeah, when there's a messy counter, I'm the first one to get the Windex and start cleaning what we can, but I'm not going to take responsibility for what happened in the past. I understand what he's saying, but let me tell you this, and you're in an education system. Did you know, and I'm sure you did, this is a study came out 10 years, 15 years ago, kids, African-American kids that went and chose private schooling or private schooling or the whatever it is, they made over $100,000 a year more than kids that went to the public schools, the African Americans that went to public schools. This is what I'm talking about. It is an individual's right to succeed in life and not be a victim. Or you can be classed as whatever it is you're classed at and be in the opinion that you're an African American, you're just not going to succeed. So the individual...
Okay, so...
And I don't even know what that number is anymore. It might be higher than that at this point.
And we've got Kelvin on the line, and we've also have Jeff from West County.
And I talk about that only, and I love your opinion about a voucher system, going to the MAG schools, going to trade schools as a high school student maybe, and succeeding as opposed to failing because your school system sucks. And that's
here's what goes on in Missouri, and most people don't know this. So private and parochials, and I've dealt with kids in both systems.
Right.
In the public system, you have to understand this. They're held to some standards that lock you into not being able to actually educate kids. So when you go to a private or a parochial school, there's one goal: true education, holistic education, and we're going to get you the skill set needed to succeed. So a byproduct of that is you get a great education, you have a higher level or a better chance to succeed.
Yes.
The public schools are held to a standard that the State Department of Education knows they can't meet because it does not have any variance in it from the scenario or situation from where the kids come from. I have a genuine belief that every kid can learn and will learn if you set up in the proper environment.
Yes.
The private and parochials have the best environment because they don't have anybody tapping them on their shoulder to say, you have to process a kid along if he doesn't know A, B, or C.
Right.
There's no standardized testing. There's none of the only goal is the ACT or SAT preparation and preparation for post-secondary, whether it be trade or whatever. But when you get into public schools, you got some people in Jeff City at Department of Education that are consistently saying, we're going to hold you to these standards, but we don't really care if they didn't read. We need them to be able to take a quote-unquote test. And if you can see the differentiation between that, of course a kid is going to be successful, black, white, or indifferent, that goes to a Chaminade, a CVC, a Visitation, a Correzu, because they're truly getting the opportunity to learn.
Correct. So my point is where is the challenge there then? Why can't we figure out how to make the private schools on the same level, or the public schools on the same level as the private schools? What is the challenge there, and why is a voucher system not a great
schools in the city?
Correct. In this, well, yes,
because there's
anywhere.
a lot of great. I mean, when I say great, a lot of great public schools in the St. Louis area, St. Louis metropolitan area.
Yes,
but not so much in the city all the time. And Kelvin explained to us last time why.
Right. Well, you have a watchdog system that for instance, in St. Louis City, they have these set of numbers that they're attempting to meet. Well, all of a sudden now it becomes an accounting game.
Yes.
I got 100 kids and I need 70% to pass the test. But when you go to Chaminade, we're sitting here saying, well, I need every kid to be able to read at this level to process on to become a great citizen. You get the difference. You have a watchdog on one, and then at the private and parochial schools, there's nobody coming in saying, we're going to test these kids in the third grade to see, and you're going to be penalized for it. I do agree that there needs to be governance, but at this point in St. Louis City, they're handcuffing. In 12 years of schooling, you should be able to teach a kid how to read, write, and do arithmetic.
And it indirectly it gets back to critical race theory. I know, Eric, you kind of took it in a different direction.
Yeah, but they all feel like they're tied together one way or another.
When it comes to teaching and that sort of thing. Kelvin, was there anything you wanted to wrap up with, or Jeff, if you're still with us?
I have a question for them, if that's okay.
Tabitha.
Guys, I just want to ask both of you and I hope you can clear this up for me. Maybe it'll clear it up for other people. What I don't understand is why critical race theory is necessary. If we're already teaching history classes, when I was in school, I learned history. I learned about all of the different events that took place. I learned about slavery. I watched Roots. My parents taught me values at home and morals to tell me that even though we have different colors of skin, we are all the same people. We're all Americans. I don't understand why critical race theory is necessary, because people these days, for the most part, are not racist like they were. They might be prejudiced, but racism is a different issue.
Well, CRT is not a secondary issue. That's the reason why I kind of posted the definition. It's something that's actually discussed in higher ed. So it's a buzzword that was thrown out there to really throw a smokescreen for one issue. In schools, and believe me, I don't think that it's up to the schools to teach you this. In schools, and Tabitha, the next time I see you, I'm going to hand you a history book that they use in these public schools. There's no real mention of anything that we're discussing on this show in terms of value of one's place, whether you're Native American, Japanese, Chinese, or whatever. It's a very, very linear way of teaching. And they leave out components that leave one group to believe that they were never a part of the success of the country, good or bad. So CRT is just something that they threw out there as a smokescreen because it's a higher ed piece. Go over to UMSL and talk to their PhD department about it, because that's what they do. But in secondary education, you ask your average high school teacher, they don't even know what CRT is because they're not teaching CRT. It's a smoke screen. They're just throwing it out there. They do not teach CRT in these schools, period. I don't care if it's Clayton, Ladue, Rockwood, Parkway. It's not happening.
Well, Calvin, I'll say this again. It's always good to have you on this show. You're very intelligent, and I'll say it again. I think you should run for something in political office in St. Louis.
Well, yeah, that may happen, but I'm I'm a transplant, so that doesn't always work.
Hey, Jeff, anything that you would like to leave with us too, my friend?
No, I mean, I love hearing Kelvin. I hope you guys have more of him on the show. I'm just trying to understand. It sounded like, Eric especially was triggered this morning, and I was concerned, and I thought I should call in as Tabitha's friend. I care about you guys, and I want to make sure everybody, all ships rise. with
And
it
Jeff
tonight.
is a loyal listener, by the way.
Just send a latte. I'll be fine. I appreciate that, Jeff. And to be honest with
Jeff,
you,
we're at 1000 Lake St. Louis Boulevard.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what he drives.
Next time I'm in town, I'll visit. But,
No, I consider.
keep doing what you're doing, and just try not to be so triggered.
It's
a bad
not
thing.
that we're triggered. It's that we're just trying to figure things out. And I'm telling you, man, I'm open. If you guys can sit here and tell me that, man, this is a good thing, and you run it down for me, and I go, wow, this is actually cool. Yeah, I support this. I just don't know what the hell it's all about. So we're just trying to learn. So I thank you, Jeff.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, have a good. Is Kelvin still on?
Yep. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Hey, Kelvin.
Yes, sir.
The only issue I had with the situation is what I said earlier. I wanted to make sure you agreed with this. Probably a bad idea for a Rockwood teacher to say, don't tell parents what we're teaching kids, right?
Well, the most interesting part about the story as I read it and as I followed it is, other than a virtual environment, I guarantee you if you were to poll every parent in school and ask them, they don't really talk to their kids about what their teacher's lesson plan was.
Correct.
They look at their homework, check up on their kid, and make sure that they're doing their work. Only because we were in a virtual environment and everybody, you're scrolling through the syllabi and you're looking at it. And then, like I said, in K-12, these are not normally issues. And when the administrator sent out the email, I'm sure she wasn't thinking. She probably should have vetted it because every parent should understand what their child is learning in school. But pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, I guarantee.
Yeah, well, it is. That's why parents should be involved.
We got to get him in the studio.
I don't know if we lost
Kelvin.
Kelvin.
You still there with us? Can you hear us? We can't hear you if you can hear us. I think we lost him.
Yeah, that's all right. Kelvin, thanks again.
I think 90% of the parents did not know what was going on in their kids' classroom pre-pandemic.
What if back when you were in high school they used Ron Jeremy to teach sex ed? Would you think your parents would like that very much? But they said, don't tell your parents. We're gonna use Ron Jeremy to teach you about
Where
sex
are you
ed.
You were dirtying things up.
I know
What
I
the
am.
hell are you talking about?
What do you think your parents would say if they used Christy Canyons?
Well, I'm going to tell you what, I grew up in rural Mississippi with no cable and no satellite service, so I don't really know if my parents would have known who Ron Jeremy was.
Exactly.
And
Just don't tell your parents what I'm showing you guys.
yeah, or if they knew who he was, they probably wouldn't have let me know they knew who he was for
Right.
fear of what I might say.
Mom, we're learning this really cool thing in
That's
high school. It's called sex ed. You got to check it out.
Oh, my God. Kelvin, as Chris was saying, whether you heard us or not, don't be a stranger. We'd bring you in anytime, talk what's going on, especially somebody who's working in the city. All right, my friend?
All right, talk to you later.
All right. We had Jeff calling from West County, from the West Coast, who has a child in school in West County in a private school.
Correct.
And Kelvin Carter, who works in St. Louis City Public Schools and has for 20 years. So it's always good to get perspective from everybody on every topic that we possibly can. And that was a good conversation. And while I like Jeff, I thought he and Jeff, you kind of took a little shot at Eric, saying he was triggered.
I get it. I come across that way, and I'm all right with that.
What'd you do to piss him off?
I don't think I
He
pissed
didn't
him off
piss
at
him
all.
off. It was
I
just
think
funny.
people like that don't
I was trying
understand
to
people
get
like
Jeff's
this.
humor. I think Jeff was joking.
I like that.
Yeah,
People don't
for sure.
Say that again. People what?
People like that don't understand people like this, and we're trying to come
There
to
you
the
go.
middle and have a conversation and a hamburger and a hot dog.
The thing I love about the
There
show,
you go.
sometimes we can go a little long. Okay, Chris, I have no idea. Do we have one break or two breaks left?
No,
or-
we're going to have to take a break.
I know. We have so many things we haven't even talked about
Right.
yet.
That's right. Fastest 2 hours of Morning Talk Radio. We appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the show. 100.7 The Viper. I'll talk as fast as I can to get us out of here. We'll be right back with more Edge right after this.
The Edge Morning Show is coming right back.
It's like I blinked and suddenly all my business shifted to e-commerce.
Now, my business hours are whenever my customers need me.
My customers want everything now and faster than ever. It's a whole different world.
Your business is changing. The United States Postal Service is changing with it. We're bringing you fast, reliable shipping nationwide, and we're bringing it right when your customers need it. Let's discover new routes. Visit USPS.com/new routes. The United States Postal Service. Priority you.
Weber Chevrolet has been in business since 1902. No other car dealer in St. Louis of any brand can say that. Nobody sells more Chevrolet, period. Weber Chevrolet is one dealer with 3 roofs. In Missouri at Olive and 270, and in Illinois Metro East, Columbia, and Granite City. All easy to get to, just follow the 270 loop. Also, all online accessible at WeberChevrolet.com. Right now, Weber Chevrolet is open but very thorough in their cleaning, disinfecting, and social distancing rules. And don't forget, Weber Chevrolet service departments are award-winning and second to none. In fact, other dealers send their problems to Weber Chevy to fix. Now during this crisis, Weber Chevrolet has teamed up with Detroit to come up with awesome deals to help people save money and manage their budget. Discounts, incentives, and the ability to not make your payment for up to 4 months. Weber Chevrolet since 1902, WeberChevrolet.com.
The Emmaus Home Poker Run fundraiser is this Saturday with an amazing after party. The run goes through Marthasville and Washington. The after party has great live music from the Bullseye WAP brands, delicious food, and of course, ice cold drinks. Be part of this fun fundraiser for Emmaus Homes this Saturday. Registration is at the Emmaus Homes Marthasville office starting at noon. For more info, go to Emmaus Homes on Facebook or emmaushomes.org.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
is pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive, bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said, now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
An important message from Quiver River Electric Cooperative. During this unprecedented time in our world, we want to emphasize our commitment to continue delivering reliable power while keeping our members and employees safe. Our linemen are taking precautions to stay socially distanced. Other employees are working from home. Although we've adjusted our operations, we want you to know that we are still here and we will continue to keep the lights on. For more, visit quiver.com or call us at 1-800-392-3709. Quiver River Electric, a touch-tone energy cooperative.
Keep your resolution to quit cigarettes this time. Go to I Quit Vapor, 852 Bryan Road, O'Fallon. I Quit Vapor carries the salt nicotine systems, their latest juice flavors, and all of their pod systems. Let their staff explain why the salt nicotine system is so effective in helping you to quit cigarettes for good. It has a much smoother delivery and allows you to adjust the amount of nicotine intake. I Quit Vapor is still your one-stop shop for everything vapor. Keep your quit cigarette resolution this time. Go to I Quit Vapor, 852 Bryan Road, O'Fallon. Puff bars and disposables now available.
Get a grip on your finances with People's Bank and Trust's new mobile banking service. You can now manage your accounts, check balances, transfer funds, and pay bills with ease and all from the palm of your hand. Activate your phone today by visiting us online at www.pbtc.net. People's Bank and Trust. Hometown banking the way it should be. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Bentley's Marine and Electronics is open in Lake St. Louis and ready to serve you. Check out their marine section for boat accessories, marine audio, water floats and supplies. Upgrade your vehicle with a new stereo, amp, speakers, reverse camera, remote start, and more. And don't forget the home theater. Shop local with confidence and let Bentley's Marine and Electronics show you that they meet or beat the big box stores. On Lake St. Louis Boulevard across from Denny's. Online at Bentley'sElectronics.com and on Facebook at Bentley's Marine and Electronics.
Now, back to the Edge Morning Show.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. You're listening to The Edge, the fastest 2 hours of morning radio. Guys, we're about done already. We got about 9 minutes. That's how fast the show went again today. With Eric Johnson, Chris Knight, and Tabitha Hassell, I'm Vic Faust of Fox 2. By the way, if you're new to the show, you can catch us on Facebook as well, 100.7 The Viper. And, of course, we love it when you share the show. And, of course, jump in on the comment line where we have a lot of interaction. And the great thing about the subjects that we talk about, and when we get people with differing opinions, is we can have some freaking mature talk. And thanks again to Kelvin and Jeff doing that. Also, we thank Jane Duker, who joined us in the 8 o'clock hour, who's legal representation for St. Louis City and St. Louis County Police, talking about the terrible crime situation that we have not only in the city, but escalating in the county as well. And what was interesting about hearing Jane talk about, too, as a review, is the fact that she was at the Board of Aldermen meeting yesterday where she said the Black Caucus of Missouri was telling the aldermen, we want police in our neighborhoods. We're the African-American community. So
we need to get JP back on to talk about that.
JP with the Black Caucus, JP Johnson, who leads it. We'll get him in.
He was a great guest.
But he's a big supporter of Tashara Jones as well.
Yes, he was kind of a supporter of defund the police a little bit.
Jane brought up a good point. Just because people voted, some of the people anyway, that voted for Tashara Jones, doesn't mean that they believe in her political stance of defunding police and all that kind of stuff.
See, that's the problem with politics these days. They being most of the city of St. Louis, an African-American mayor and the first female ever. That's historic. They got it, but that doesn't always mean you agree with every topic. Just again, if you vote Republican, for example, we joked about it in this room, at least 3 of the 4 of us feeling like there's not a party for us at times because we have views of Republican and conservative nature and Democratic and liberal nature. We've all talked about that, except Chris.
But Jane Duker is liberal, but she seems like she falls on the conservative side.
Only because things have gotten so far left.
Exactly.
Right.
We very rarely hear a moderate Democrat these days. Moderate Democrats, I mean, they're a dying party.
But she also said, just to be fair, we try to be fair.
That she wants to ride in a Lamborghini.
Yeah, that she wants to ride in a Lamborghini. With Steve
Chris's
Allman.
Lamborghini.
Can you fit 3
with
of you in
Steve
that
Allman.
Lamborghini? Your brand new Lamborghini?
No.
Okay.
We can get a trailer.
So she wants Steve Ellman to drive her around in the blue Lamborghini while you stay and watch.
I would be willing
is that
to.
what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ellman drives and tours.
I will beg you to let that happen, Chris. That would beg you to let that happen.
But the other thing she said that blew my mind, put this in the memory bank. St. Louis City, currently more dangerous than Tijuana, Mexico.
That's crazy.
That's what stood up to me. And we thank Jane for joining us this morning.
We're more dangerous in Guatemala City. That was released last week. We are literally probably one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
Per capita.
And we talk about these topics on a daily basis, and we appreciate you joining us when you do for the show. One thing I wanted to get into before we leave today, guys, if you're flying or dealing with flights or people coming in, Chris is going to give you an experience. I don't know what in the hell is going on with Southwest, but Southwest yesterday canceled several flights at the last moment because of a, quote, technical problem. I don't know.
It was a secondary weather app that they.
They say that. They say that.
I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying that.
I'm not buying it at all, Eric.
And I've been looking at the Southwest schedule today, and there are already flights delayed and canceled today coming into St. Louis.
Well, I think usually you get a backlog of people that you got to try to move out of those situations.
Well, yeah, but there's no reason for them to cancel and delay flights today.
Well, Chris, you flew it. Chris, what do you think's going on? What was the scene like at Lambert last night?
It was kind of a mess. I'm not going to lie. Fortunately enough, I was supposed to come in on a private jet, and the leg that I was taking from Fort Lauderdale to St. Louis was canceled because the initial leg it was coming up from the Northeast, coming down to drop some people off in Fort Lauderdale. They got sick, so the plane was never there. So I had to commercial home, and last night when I commercialed home, thank goodness, I always take nonstops. I never try to connect. I don't know about you guys, but connections are always a problem.
And that's where the delays
That's where the
are.
problem starts, right. So I took a straight shot from Fort Lauderdale to St. Louis. So I'm on the plane, and we're on our way here, and I hear the flight attendant talking to these people because these people are like panicking that they're not going to make their connection. And I thought, wait a minute, we're not getting into St. Louis till 10 o'clock at night. We don't typically have departures after 10 o'clock at night in St. Louis. If we do, it's very, very few. And, sure enough, we pull up to the gate, and, we exit the plane, and I start walking up into the terminal, and there's hundreds. I'm not kidding you. There are hundreds of people standing in the main terminal of Southwest, and the St. Louis City Police, the airport police, on a Tuesday night are standing around, and all these people are pissed off because just one comes to mind. There was flight 5151 from St. Louis to Kansas City. It was supposed to leave at like 7:30, 7:45, and then let me remind you, I didn't get in till 9:45 at night. I hear it come over the intercom. 5151 will not be leaving until 1 o'clock in the morning, and they just loaded that plane in Tampa Bay.
Damn.
So all these people are like freaking out, and I'm thinking, holy cow. I mean,
but we still don't know why.
It's because of a secondary
I don't
weather
believe
app
that. I don't believe
that
it.
they claim, which they do have to have a secondary. When you fly on a one, they're a 141, a part 141 is what the airlines fly on. So when they have ACARs and all stuff like this, and people aren't going to know what I'm talking about, but it is a computer system that's how they track everything. They track everything. So technically, when you push off a gate, when you're sitting there and the cabin door's locked and you feel that initial like push, that means that's the time that the airline, that is when the flight actually starts taking place.
That's when it's documented. When it's documented.
That's not when it's wheels up.
Okay, why
And
is
that's
this
how-
all of a sudden happening now?
That's how a crew is paid.
I know, but why is this happening now, Chris?
It's never happened before.
Because
this is 3 days in a row.
They have, I really do believe.
American
I
Airlines
don't
was
believe it.
canceling flights 2 days ago as well.
And they canceled some today too.
Why?
I'm
American
looking at
as well?
I'm looking at this
So
all incoming
American's
flights right
canceling
now.
Southwest, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I'm looking at all incoming flights right now into St. Louis today.
My friend was
there are
bashing
numerous
American on Facebook 2 days
Yes,
ago, giving him
I
7 hours
remember.
notice, and they're trying to fly in from another country.
There are numerous flights today from American and Southwest that are either delayed or canceled. I just checked it again just a second ago. Several.
What's
It was
going
a big
on,
deal
Christopher?
it was a big deal for Southwest because they canceled over 500
Yes.
flights. On
Which is
Monday.
huge. No,
And
1,200, son.
When
1,200 flights.
Well, maybe it was 500 yesterday,
Yeah,
but
and that might be.
when you start canceling that many flights. And let me remind you, Vic, I don't know the last time you flew. COVID. What's COVID? I mean, these planes are absolutely plumb full.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but they got masks
I mean,
on.
No,
I
but
don't
we
care
had to
about.
wear- we had to
I don't
wear
care
masks.
about. Yeah, I don't care about the mask. I'm just saying these planes do not have an empty seat. If they could sell the lavatory seat, that sucker would be sold. I mean,
Yeah,
they
no,
are
no,
completely full.
No, I flew in March.
So, when you cancel or delay 500 flights, I mean that's tens of thousands of people, and it's going to take them days. Just like Tabitha said, here we're 2 days after the initial, failure of their technical system, and they're still canceling.
But why? Why? Was it because of a secondary weather app that was not even in the cockpit? Why?
It's a good
Find
question.
out. Vic will report on it tonight.
Yeah, let's see what happens today. We'll be
Yes.
back with
I
more
did see your
Edge tomorrow.
colleague there last night, right? Zara Barker.
Oh
with
yeah,
Flex?
Zara.
Yeah.
She's amazing, by the way. And
She was standing there by
And-
the luggage
yeah,
carousel.
and by the way, as we go, I just got news. Rocky Madden announced his retirement this morning.
Oh, wow. He's been
And
around
that
a
is
long
such
time.
a bummer because he's the Fox 2 News. He and Chris Renier, both those guys, Chris in the morning.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Rocky's tagouts, he was always Fox 2 News.
What consultant
Well,
said that's a good idea?
congratulations, Rocky.
Rocky, that's a bummer. That's a loss for us because he's the best reporter in the market.
Gosh, yes. I remember being 16, working at Ben Franklin in Brentwood, and he would come in.
I bet
Anyway.
you don't think it's a bummer.
Yeah, no, he's like, we'll go. And Eric, he's a guy that with his wife moved to the city in their later years, and he lives in the city to promote the city. Eric Johnson, Chris Knight, and Tabitha Hassell. I know you're going to get back to your desk here in a second. It is interesting, though. Good luck to Rocky. Wish him the best.
Let's have a party.
Yeah.
Let's have a party.
Platinum Rock Legends is going to Rocky's house to party.
That will never
Party
happen. But
this
we will.
weekend.
I mean, we'll show up, but not with the regalia.
Oh, man. For Eric Johnson, Chris Knight, Tabitha Hassell, and Vic Faust of Fox 2. I'll see you tonight at Fox 2 5 at 9 p.m. Chris, I'm going to wear some charcoal gray and some purple, some light purple tonight.
Sounds good.
I'll wear some of your Smurf blue
that again.
Lamborghini tomorrow.
Look at that.
Purple. All right,
He loves
goodbye.
it. Have a great day.
Have a great day. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.
Show's over.
Okay, show's over.
Now just get out, all of you.
Neither one of us has anywhere else to go.
Please leave.
Go, buddy.
Oh, that was fun.
I think it went really well, really well.
Well, I see by the clock on the wall that it's time to bid you one and all goodbye. Goodbye. So long. So long. Goodbye till when we meet again.
KFNS FM, Troy, St. Charles, and the Westplex. 100.7 FM, The Viper. Legendary rock that really rocks.